At the first time when it was heard of, it was still located within China, and also it was very, to be truthful, it was very far from my mind. But I have a wife who is an intensivist. She is an ICU specialist, and so she started off by telling us back then that watch for this thing, it's going to spread. It's that she was in charge, she was at the front line when SARS hit and all of that. So she began to prepare us from January in my house, everything, sanitizers, washing, the whole thing, that it will come, it will come. As of January, she was already telling us it was in Nigeria, but nobody believed, not Nigeria, not England, no one believed that this thing was going to be bad. And so we just started watching, but I was pretty shocked as to how quickly it spread in Europe, got into America, and I'm just thankful that Nigeria has not been hit as hard as we were afraid it would be. But I was really worried for Nigeria, really worried for Nigeria. Two things I've seen that have really affected everyone is that the first is that with the lock and stay down, with the lockdown and stay at home, people have had to adapt to work from home and work from home basis. Now, what have I seen that has done? It's made everyone a lot more efficient. It means that people really don't have a start time and a finish time, so your work-life balance has to change, and you have to be ready for managing that aspect of life. But efficiency has been great. So we're thinking about how all of this affects us as a business moving forward. You have to think about what type of business are you in? Are you changing? Are you restructuring? Are you going to think again about what the future is? Who has been resilient in this time, in this period? And that's very key, because what COVID has done is that it's taught people that if your business is not resilient in this time, then it's likely not going to be sustainable. One of the things that you are certain about is that when you have a downturn like this, especially if you are not in certain businesses, healthcare supply line, logistics, and if you are not in, say, IT and digital, you're going to hit, the bottom line will be hit. It's going to be hit. But there's one thing that I've always known all through life, especially when you're in the energy and oil and gas sector. It's a cyclical business. It's a business that prepares for shocks like this. As you would see, oil prices crashed. In WTI, it went to -3. Now, all of those things are the kind of shocks that you are prepared for a business that keeps going up and down. So it's your mindset. The one thing that we are well prepared for in our business has always been that your mindset has to be ready to come out of any kind of shock. When you get in, begin to look for opportunities. As soon as you see a crisis coming, begin to look for opportunities. Why? The first thing that is going to hit your competition is fear. And fear paralyzes. So in a crisis like this, most people are going to stop thinking. They're going to stop looking. They'll just begin to go inwards. At that point, what we have always trained ourselves and our staff to do is that from that minute, start looking for opportunities. Where are the opportunities? What can you do? And all of that. And for this, I'm certain that we're well prepared for that. And then the second thing you train for, apart from the opportunities, is that it ends. There's always an end to a crisis. It doesn't matter whether it's 3 months, 1 year, whatever, there's always an end. So your mindset through the crisis first is that you look for opportunities, you maintain survival, stay alive, don't die. Just make sure you stay alive. Whatever it takes, stay alive. And then begin to prepare for coming out of it. And when you're coming out of it, you're already ahead of the curve. One of the things that I found out this time around for working from home is that it's actually easier to monitor, because where else can you be? You're at home, you set a meeting, you can't say, oh, you're on the road, you got traffic, you couldn't go, you were in the air, you are traveling, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. All of that goes out of the window. The first aspect of it is that you are available at the time that you say you're available. The next thing that we found out is that because everybody is on the screen at the same time, and deadlines had been set. Everybody has a deliverable to come to. Nobody wants to come to that screen and say that they were not able to deliver. So you actually find out that everybody, peer pressure and the peer analysis is keeping everybody stay on their toes, because you suddenly find out now, whereas in the past what would happen is that you will get information from here and there's a time delay between the time that you get that information and somebody who is affected by that decision comes back to you. And sometimes it's lost in all sorts of things, other things come in and all of that. So a decision that should have been instantaneous can take you a week, sometimes 2 weeks, and you are lost in that period. What Work at Home has shown us this time around is that when you have everybody and the different departments all at the same time, in different parts of the world, on the screen at that time, and there's a deliverable that one person is meant to do, all of a sudden that person begins to see that my decision here has multiple consequences if I don't do it. And so that efficiency has come into the workplace, and it's something that is going to stay, because now everybody knows that they must deliver. The part that is a bit more difficult now is that when you have multiple locations at different parts of the country, then you find out, even country or state, you then find out that some people are awake when others are asleep. And when you then have a multi-dimensional meeting like that, some it's night, some it's morning and all of that. And so you're intruding into all sorts of personal time. And I think personal time is a new thing that we now have to redefine, because frankly, it's almost out of the window, at least in this lockdown. We saw that people were working all through. You could set a meeting at 11 o'clock at night and people will be there. 10 o'clock, all sorts of time. So that aspect of it has to be rethought. I don't think so. Because what has happened, for a long time I used to be going to the World Economic Forum, and this argument always used to happen, that will better technology create less people, less employment in the workspace. And even back then, every time that you thought about it, that's the natural fear that that's what it's going to do. But the reality of it is that it actually retools people. So people almost immediately begin to retool for the advantages that this brings. So when efficiency comes in, you find out that you can do more things, you can go faster, you can collaborate more, you need more people to do certain type of things. So maybe if you used to have somebody who would carry a file from one place to another, that job may go. But almost immediately, that person can also retool from carrying files from one place to another to being back-end in planning of logistics, for example, or doing something else at the back end. So it's always an opportunity for people to retool. Believe me, 2 months ago, if you had spoken to me about Instagram Live, for example, I had no idea how it worked. I had no idea what you needed to do and all of that. But right now, I know exactly what to do. So if you choose not to learn, then you have a problem. But with technology, what it does is that it gives you an advantage to continue to retool and learn. And I think the beautiful thing about all of this is that technology has actually become easier to understand and easier to use. You don't have to write code. You just have to know how to use it. So I remember someone that I spoke to, and I said, we're going to have a Zoom meeting. And the person was like, Zoom meeting, what's that? I don't know how to do a Zoom meeting. I said, okay, you know what? Let me take you through and all of this. So called, send the details, put them through. Within an hour, 2 hours, they were very conversant in it. Now it's that person that is setting up all sorts of Zoom meetings immediately after learning it. So the first thing that people come to when they find that there is a new technology and all of that is, I don't know how to do it. It's their fear to go across. But the minute they discover how to use it, they become the ambassadors to go out to do a lot more. So with clients, with my mentees and all of that, one of the things I said to them is that, you know what, during this lockdown, the one thing that I need you to do right early, I just said very early, reach out to your clients, reach out to them, call them, don't discuss business, just call them to find out how they were doing, call them to find out how things are going. Ask them, oh, have you done a Zoom meeting? Have you heard about this thing? Blah, 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 and all of that. And put them through. Let them feel that you are adding to them, not always wanting to take from them. The minute they feel that you are adding to them, as this crisis begins to die down and they begin to get back into work mode, the person they would remember is you. So building relationships at all times, especially during a crisis, is critical. In fact, it's paramount. If you can do that, you're ahead of the curve. But if you don't do that and you're thinking about only you, you'll be in big trouble. Lesson number 1 is that your mentality must be strong. You have to keep the same mindset every day. 2, in that same mindset, there are certain habits that you must do and continue to do. Whether it's that you want to get up, dress up, and all of that. My daughter and son, they're always laughing at me in the morning because once I get up and I've done my exercise and I take my shower, I am going to dress up. It may not be in a suit and tie, but he said, why are you ironing your shirt? I will iron it and make sure that you're close. And the reason why is that your mindset should always be ready to be on the go. Always be ready to be on the go. You don't have to go out, but that mindset that you are in the process, that at any point in time, you may have a video call, at any point in time, somebody may call you, and what the person sees at that point, they don't want to see you in some dirty t-shirt, lounging and all of that. They need to know that you are prepared all the time. So that for me has also been critical, that regardless of where you are, I've never been home this long for 5 straight weeks in my entire life. But at the same time, I came to realize that whether you are out or in, what you see of yourself and how you behave and what your mindset is paramount. And this was a big lesson because we had been talking about it all through, about mindset. But this was the first time that we were actually implementing it to this length. And so that has worked. So that has been great. The third thing that has been absolutely phenomenal is that relationships have mattered the most. You've seen that at this time, because of the lockdown, a lot of people have tried to redevelop relationships, calling people, linking up and all of that, and valuing, finding out for the first time what the value of relationship is. Now, this is something that we had known all through. So those things have continued. And those lessons are lessons that we're going to carry forward because now you can reap a lot of benefit from this. You have the right mentality, right mindset, you are very comfortable about who you are and you know who you are, and you have the right kind of relationships to develop on. Excellent, just keep them. The first thing that you must always remember, that why me, why did it happen to me, what happened and all of that is never the right question to ask, depending on how you're asking it. If you're asking it with a lot of pity, self-pity and all of that, you're not going to come out because what that means is that you're just going to get into depression and you don't want to get there. One of the things that you must always say to yourself is that there's nothing new under the sun. Nothing new under the sun. Almost everybody who is successful in fact, everybody who is successful in this life has had a situation where they have crashed at some point or the other. Either they've lost their job, they've gone bankrupt, something happened that totaled them, and they had to start again and move forward. Everyone, myself inclusive, everybody has done that. And so when you remember that there's nothing new under the sun, you say to yourself that if others could have come out of this, I will come out of this. It's a bad place to be. I'm in a valley at this point in time, but I will climb out of it. So your mindset has to be right. The second aspect of it is you might know intuitively, right, that you are already on the way down. Either the business was not right, the structure was not right, something was not right. Nothing just happens out of the blue. You will know something was not right, and you might have been warned over and over. Put in good governance, put in better structure, put in something here and there, but you failed to heed that advice. This is the time to go back and start correcting. What did I do? What did I not do right? How can I better it? There's no lesson that is wasted. I always say everything that we have been through in life as an experience coming from yesterday is part of what makes us stronger for tomorrow. And so I never threw any of those lessons away. Have I lost my job before? Yes, I have. Has my company, the company that I was working in, did it leave Nigeria and liquidate? I used to work for a foreign company that called me one day and just said, you know what? We're out of Nigeria. We're pulling out of Nigeria. Liquidate the company. Liquidating at that time meant that there's no way they're even coming back. You're deregistering, you're coming out completely. And so One day you were here, the next day you were here. But look at it today. I'm neither here nor here. Sometimes where you are asked to come out of is the level, is the push that you need to go higher. So just believe that you can get higher, you can get better, as long as you do not destroy yourself by your own self-thought. Don't think it is the end. Don't think that you can never come out of this. You will come out of it, guaranteed. The first thing I will say is that there's any business will be extinct in this window. That's not true. Businesses are going to change. The office space may change. You may not need that big office space where everybody comes in all the time. But human beings always also need physical interaction. There's only so much you can do behind the screen, only so much. There are certain things that are absolutely necessary in the space. Body movement that you cannot see. There are signs that you cannot get. There are things that when you are in a space and you're watching the dynamics of people walking in that space in real life, that tells you certain things that behind the screen you can never know. So as far as I'm concerned, those things are not going to end. They will still continue, but they will continue differently. Are restaurants going to suddenly all go out of fashion and you will never have restaurants again? Absolutely not. You will still have it because there is something about human interaction that requires that you have a face-to-face, that you sit down, that you have a community, that you come together. So what will happen is that it will just change. What you will do is that those businesses will now create a space whereby they can do two things. For them, it will be an opportunity that they can begin to do online deliveries, they can go out, they can reach a lot more people. Their orders on one side can be much quicker. So they will change that aspect of them, which is an improvement to their service. I was speaking to a friend of mine last week on her business, that is a restaurant business. And one of the things she was talking about is how their menu will change. For example, because of COVID, they're now not going to have menus where they're passing it from one person to another, passing it from one person to another. And now they'll just have electronic menus. You come in, you look at it on the board, you have a dashboard. Now, that is innovation. Well, that is progress. So I said to her, I said, excellent. It's actually better for you. You're moving forward because of the change in this. But you're not suddenly saying that you're no longer going to exist. You're going to cancel. Oil and gas, again, another thing that, like I said, it's always cyclical. It keeps going up and down. For a long time, we've been talking about post-oil, at peak oil. At what point is oil no longer going to be valid? And we're going to get there. There's no doubt about it. You're going to get to a place where oil, as in we know it for diesel, for cars and all of that, is not going to be there. But guess what? Plastics are still there. Derivatives of oil still come. Almost everything, fabrics, synthetic materials and all of that still come from oil, which means that there are many other things. In fact, there are more things that you can do with oil than just just convert it to petrol and diesel. So what companies begin to think about is how do we pivot from where we are today to where we're going to in the future? Is electricity going to be the way forward? If electricity is going to be the way forward, begin to move, begin to pivot in that direction. But where the danger is, to the beginning of your question, is if you do nothing. If you sit down and just say, oh, everything is going to be the same, then you are dead. That one, it is not the industry that is dying, it is you that will die. So first and foremost, I'll tell you that you probably and most likely were already looking in the wrong place. You are already competing in a very small space where a lot of people, first it was already full. There were many people looking at it. All of them wanted to come in there. That's why you didn't have a job for a long time. Meanwhile, there are other areas here, whether you're in Nnewi, whether you're in Sokoto and all of that, there are other areas that require a lot of people that can do things, but you were never looking at it. And so what has all of this shown? Just sit down and figure it out. The first aspect of it is that every single person has had to eat regardless. Lock you down, shut you down, be in Nnewi, Sokoto, wherever. You must have food. You must. And so one of the things that everybody has seen, whether the one who went to school or not, is that the food supply chain, the agricultural supply chain is a chain that has been resilient. Now you have been looking for oil and gas, you've been looking for banking and all of that, but you went to school as well. You were educated to think that, you know what, I can use my experience and what I have learned to work within this supply chain. You don't have to be at the very bottom of the supply chain. There are so many aspects of it that you can do. And one of the places that I'm always amazed that people fail to realize, I have found, as soon as I harvest, right, between the time that you harvest and the time that you get to market, if you don't know what to do at that point, you're going to lose 60% of your harvest if it's vegetable, and 40% if you are doing more staple foods like cassava and all of that. 60 and 40% is a huge number. It's a huge number. Meanwhile, you have so many people sitting down here who do not even understand that that value chain that is being lost is business every single day. So what do? They're very basic, very basic. The most, let's assume you don't have anything, you've been sitting down at home. They're very basic technology for preserving tomato. Just go to the market, grind it, and vacuum seal it in a jar, bottle that you heat up. Just heat it, put the tomato inside, you seal it, cool it. It sucks all the air out. That same tomato in that jar, that same jar is a basket of tomato in dry season. That same jar. And that is just simple science that you did. Physics and chemistry that you did. But instead you want to wear the tie and go to the job and all of that. This is just one aspect of it. Not to talk of those who are doing oil mills, palm kernel, gari, all sorts of things, and packaging it. Those, so first line packaging without even going further. And these are areas, so agriculture in itself can absorb a lot of the people in Nnewi and all. Going back to Nnewi as well, a young mentee of mine that left Sahara 2 years ago, we were talking recently, and he was excited because I've been mentoring him a while, and then he showed me a first line processing, because we went to Kaduna, he used to have a farm there and all of that, and we had talked about all of these things. But long and short of it is that he fabricated an oil mill to process palm kernels so that they can extract oil that is needed in the industry. Processed it in Ibadan. Everything that he fabricated was fabricated here in the East. I'm not sure if it was anyway, but they got it there, fabricated, built everything for him from that end and brought it in. The only thing that they probably had to buy or import was the machine, which can still be made here. There was a time that we sponsored some students from Kaduna Poly. They made everything that they needed here. So this whole period should show us one thing, to all of my young men who are out there walking around, that when we got into this trouble, COVID, the one thing that Nigeria should have realized, whether they know it or not, the one thing that Nigeria realized is that the whole world looked out for themselves. We were alone. Nobody was answering us. You were looking for ventilators you couldn't find. You were looking for test labs you couldn't find. PCR you couldn't find. PPEs, everything you looked for, they withdrew it to themselves. It's time we stop. So today you go around, you see people are making face masks. These are the cheapest things that they could have made any day. But we spent nearly 2 months looking for face masks all over the place. And now we started a whole new industry here in Nigeria. So for all our young people who are wondering that what should they do, there are many opportunities outside of your traditional oil and gas, traditional banking, traditional government. Those places never employ a lot. They can't. Use your innovation, use your brain, and go into this area. That's one, just one. A second area that they can all work in, even within this space. Now I just give you the most basic of first line processing in agriculture. How about data? All of a sudden now, everybody is realizing the value of data. His Excellency Sonolu was talking the other day that data, they need data. Why? Because you are spending hours trying to trace people, find people and all of that. When data is available as to how to find them, But now you are running all over the place. You will spend almost 7 hours looking for one human being in Lagos all over the place because you have inaccurate data and all of that. Now, there are so many young boys who are spending all their time Yahoo. And they have the capacity and the technology for data. Look inwards now. Everybody needs data. The government needs it. Private companies needs it. Individuals need it. So start working on it. So I think it's up to you. Musa in Sokoto, Ayo in Lagos, Chinedu in Niue. It's up to you to decide that are you going to continue looking at this small hole where everybody is trying to get in, that is also spitting people out? Are you going to look at all of these vast opportunities that exist, of which nobody is doing anything about? The choice is yours. Many years ago, right, we never had the opportunity to even do what we are doing, to sit down, ask questions that will go out and educate another generation of people. That did not even exist. Everybody did lessons by trial and error. You had to try, you had to fail, you had no mentors and all of that. That was 20 years ago. Over the last 20 years, you've had so many of these things, seminars, books, all sorts of things. But more importantly today, you have technology that is also speaking to these things at your fingertip. All of that exists. Now, let us move even further from what technology does. And it's bringing information directly to you. So I have a lot of young people who are sitting down and wondering that, what do they do? Before, I had to bring all of them one by one, find them, call them, come and speak to them. Today, they don't need to leave. You can speak to a lot of them at the same time from where you are and impart that knowledge. Now, what has that got to do with education? Because there are different types of education that you can get. The root education that you used to get, go to the classroom, all of you are sitting down, there's a teacher in front and all of that. Thankfully, that's going to end. If it's not going to end, right, another type of education is going to increase so much more that is going to make that insignificant. And that, for me, is one of the best things that has come out of all of this COVID. The mere fact that all of a sudden, children have the access to other types of education that can come both to their homes to meet them. That is not this one that you're sitting in the class and all. Teachers have had to learn very, very quickly that there's competition now. You see, this is the beautiful thing about the kind of technology that you have. Now, I was telling someone who wanted to go to Canada, everybody wants to run away. And so the person wants to go to Canada. And I sat down and I said, why do you want to go to Canada? I want to go to school. I said, okay, fine. Just for school, right? That's the only reason why you want to go. She's fighting her father right now, and the dollar is changing and all of that, so he can't afford it. I said, okay, you want to go to Canada. That's why you want to go, because you want to go to school. I said, that's fine. But do you know that now, with these changes that you have, you can sit here in Nigeria and get the same education that you wanted from Canada, if that is what you want, and get a degree that will still allow you to do what you want to do, if education is what you want. And this is the change that COVID in itself and digital and the whole digital education world is bringing to us. What does that mean? Before, the competition here, why did we not take education so seriously before? As far as I'm concerned, it was because you always had a captive market. People who could not, the number of people who could leave, right, were a pittance compared to those who stayed. But you were losing your best brains. And so it was a problem for us. Because the ones who remained, right, you could not give them the kind of education that will help Nigeria move. And the ones who got the education would disappear and go. All right, post-COVID, what do I see happening? All of a sudden, that competition that you thought did not exist here is coming in. So people are now going to sit in Nigeria. They can't afford to travel anymore. But they can afford to pay for online, proper education that they can see, and they can see themselves in a classroom with peers of their type from all over the world. Your education has to change. Your education has to change, because now people are not going to be coming into your classroom if you are not going to give them that type of education. And that is the best thing for us. If you are down, you've lost everything, you don't have enough money to restart, you have already tapped all your resources, bank, loan, people and all of that, and the only way for you right now is to go and get a job somewhere, feel free. Go and do that, it's okay. Do not allow that to make you think that it is shameful. It is not. It's called restarting. So you go back, you learn all the lessons that you had, first of all the mistakes that you have made to get here. You won't make it again. I can guarantee you will not make it again. But what it just means is that for wherever you are tapping now, the jobs that you are getting, go and pull it. Now, the next question almost immediately is that how will I get a job? You have more experience setting up a business and failing than people who had a job and never set up a business. I know. So I'd rather employ somebody who has been there, tried it, made that mistake and failed, because his mindset or her mindset is totally different from somebody who just walked in and has never started a job. So the one thing I will tell you first of all is that you actually have a lot more to offer than those who are working in there. But you must believe and you must be honest about it. So if you come to an interview, let them know that this is why. You tried, you did everything, but you made these mistakes and you can never make that mistake again. As an employer, and I'm looking at that, one of the things I'm going to say is that you're not going to come and mess around in my business, just losing money without understanding the value of money. So for you, you actually have an advantage over others, but you must believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. So for that level, and that's the lowest level of persons, move. For an entrepreneur who is feeling that, you know what, I'm not sure if I will survive. My business is going down and all of that. Pivot. Look at your business. Look at areas that have opportunities. And I've mentioned a couple of them. Look at them and just figure out that, can I move and can I pivot from this to this? And the answer most of the time is yes. When you see that this area that you are in, because of COVID and all of that, is now constrained, it does not have the resilience that you thought it had, pivot. You have the opportunity to pivot. Do not make the mistake of digging down here and saying that, you know what, let me just stay and see, especially when you know that the signs are not as good. It's time to pivot. Look for the opportunities. The opportunities exist. Be a first mover there. Take your experience from here and move to there. To those who feel that, you know what, it's going to be tough, I've already invested too much in this side for me to go through, then what you have to do is endure. This is the time for you to just hold tight. Cut your waist, cut out a lot of things, and just scale through. Business is like this, it's up and down. At the time when it's going down, if you've invested too much, you already have enough infrastructure to keep it going, then endure. You might have to cut some costs. It may mean that you may have to either, first, what we always used to do back then, we don't do it now, but back then, when you are in a typical situation like this, you call your staff and say, we're all in this situation together. We will get out of it together, but it means everybody has to bite the bullet. Okay, so I'd rather not sack you, but can we reduce costs 50%? Are you willing to take a 50% cut in your salary for this period till we can make it? And you will find that most people are willing, especially if they know that you are being sincere. It's not that you are cutting it so that you can continue to go and drive a Rolls Royce or something. Do you understand? So if we get into this kind of arrangement, then you will survive.